The following events to be told are SCP Foundation classified. This information is available only to those with Level 4 clearance. This report describes how humanity first interacted with SCP-redacted, and how the SCP ended up in the hands of the SCP Foundation. Dr. Ekaterina Baranova, a young psychiatrist and biological scientist, is a brilliant researcher invited by Colonel Rurik, head of a secret covert government unit of the Soviet Union called GRU Division P. According to the Colonel, the GRU Division P is tasked with discovering, obtaining or neutralizing foreign technologic developments that could endanger the Soviet Union and broadly the states of the Socialist International, their citizenry, or its overall political, economic, military and scientific aims. The activity of GRU Division P is aimed at suppressing hostile abnormal activities within Socialist International states, as well as documenting abnormal phenomena. The abnormal phenomena that the doctor is studying is a cosmonaut that was supposed to be dead. It was revealed to the doctor that while returning to Earth, 2 Russian cosmonauts on an orbital research mission witnessed something inexplicable. They saw something moving outside their ship. The spacecraft malfunctions on re-entry and crashes in Kazakhstan, killing all except one of the cosmonauts. She soon discovers that the cosmonaut unknowingly brought back an extraterrestrial life form inside his own body. Further observations showed that the creature emerges at night when its host is sleeping. The Colonel reveals to her that she is here to determine how to separate the cosmonauts and the creature, since they seem to have developed a completely symbiotic relationship, with the creature living in the esophagus of the cosmonaut and benefiting from his nutrients, while cosmonaut has made an impossible recovery from his injuries received when crash landing. The doctor learns 3 things following further examination. First, it appeared in a wispy form on its first sighting, as described by the cosmonaut. This is thought to be its infancy or larval stage. Second, the creature possesses 2 sets of arms. The first is comparable to ours in terms of shoulder joints, humerus, radius and ulnar bones, and hands. This would give it the ability to manipulate the environment around it. Lastly, as it matured, it formed a new pair of arms that were linked at the bottom of the rib cage, near the abdominal area. After further studies, the doctor discovers that the creature is affected by hormone levels, which leads to her discovering a horrifying truth. The creature does not feed from whatever the cosmonaut eats, but rather eats live humans, and that the Colonel has been secretly feeding it prisoners. The doctor discovers that this creature, when feeding, shows itself to its victims in order to augment their fear, which makes the human brain release cortisol, from which the alien obtains its nutrition. Disgusted and horrified by this, she confronts the Colonel, only to be told that the real reason they are here is to find a way to turn the alien into a weapon that they can control. Left with no other choice, she reluctantly agrees. As the creature continues to grow, there's a critical point where it switches from parasite to symbiote, and this is likely characterized by the linking of the 2 consciousness. With the regular feedings and time passing, the creature would continue to grow even inside of the esophagus and stomach, and it will be able to access all of these limbs, making it more lethal. Given that it is leaving the host's body for longer and longer periods of time, it appears that this will eventually become a permanent arrangement. The creature is giving a new designation as the symbiote. With these observations and discoveries, the Colonel urged the Doctor to move forward with the plans and begin experiments on the cosmonaut in order to turn him into a viable weapon. With this quick progression, the Doctor ultimately decides she wants to aid the cosmonaut, and, with the assistance of another Doctor inside the facility, arranges an escape. Because the Doctor can no longer endure the horrifying human experiments required to convert the creature into a weapon for the Soviet Union. The Doctor was forced to seek assistance from other foreign groups that investigate unusual occurrences that could aid them in their escape. The SCP Foundation responded, assuring the Doctor and cosmonaut that they would be safe. In addition, the O5 Council agreed to dispatch a mobile squad to meet them at the extraction site. They begin their getaway after establishing an extraction site and an escape route. But before they could leave the facility, the Colonel learned of their plans and was able to dispatch a response team to stop them. Cornered and left with no other choice, the cosmonaut was forced to control the symbiote and take out the entire strike team sent after them. During the fighting, the Doctor took this chance to escape with the cosmonaut. During the escape, the Doctor noticed that the harm the symbiote was receiving mirrored the damage to the cosmonaut. However, the Colonel was able to catch up with them with several GRU soldiers and the wounded symbiote while they waited for the SCP Foundation agents at the extraction site. As the Colonel approaches, she pulls her firearm and begs him to let them go. She also warns that SCP operatives are on their way. But the Colonel is unconcerned. The Colonel threatens to kill the Doctor for betraying her country. But before he can pull the trigger, he and the GRU soldiers are killed by the symbiote controlled by the cosmonaut. Moments later, SCP Foundation agents arrive. Both the Doctor and the cosmonaut escaped and were secured by the SCP agents arriving to help them escape. The fate of the Doctor and the cosmonaut is classified by the SCP Foundation and only accessible to those with level 5 and above clearances. To learn more about the fate of the cosmonaut and the Doctor, please subscribe to Modern Anito for more stories in the SCP universe.